All right, so this is a suggestion via a channel member. Let's check it out.
President, China supports the Security Council holding an emergency meeting regarding the United States military strikes on Venezuela. And thanks USG DiCarlo for reading out the briefing of the Secretary General Guterres. I have listened carefully to the statements of the briefers, and we welcome to this meeting the permanent representative of Venezuela and representatives of other countries. On January the 3rd, the United States blatantly launched large-scale military strikes against Venezuela, forcibly seized Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, and took them out of the country. It claimed that it will run Venezuela and even didn't rule out launching a second round of military operations on an even larger scale. China is deeply shocked by and strongly condemns the unilateral, illegal, and bullying acts of the U.S.
I understand the only reason why they basically care is because they know by default if the overall power changes, in Venezuela, and then they start focusing more on Western ideology than more so than Eastern ideologies, they're going to by default not allow China, to come in and put bases here, access their ports, kind of move things around, kind of give them things potentially, or even allow them to have surveillance equipment in these places here super close to the United States of America. The problem is one problem. They were like, oh no, America is going to have more access than we are over here, right? And they only care about the fact that they're losing access. That's it, to America. That's it. That's it.
For some time now, the international community has repeatedly expressed grave concern over the U.S. sanctions, blockade, and threats of force against Venezuela. The Council convened two emergency meetings during which Secretary General Guterres, many Council members, and countries in the region and beyond unanimously called for abiding by the UN Charter and the international law, maintaining calm and restraint, resolving disputes peacefully, de-escalating tensions, and safeguarding regional stability. However, as a permanent member of the Council, the U.S. has disregarded the grave concerns of the international community, wantonly trampled upon Venezuela's sovereignty, security, and legitimate rights and interests, and seriously violated the principles of sovereign equality, non-interference in internal affairs, peaceful settlement of international disputes, and the prohibition of the use of force in international relations. These principles constitute the fundamental tenets of the UN Charter and form the cornerstone of maintaining international peace and security. The U.S. has placed its own power above multilateralism and military action above diplomatic efforts, posing a grave threat to peace and security in Latin America and the Caribbean, and indeed internationally. China firmly opposes this, and the international community has also expressed widespread grave concern and strong condemnation. We urge the U.S. to
Oh, bro,
heed
this is
the
scathing.
overwhelming voice of the international community, abide by international law and the purposes and principles of the UN Charter, cease infringing upon the sovereignty and security of other countries, stop toppling the government of Venezuela, and return
Uh-huh.
to the path of political solutions through dialogue and negotiations.
Okay, bro. Let me go ahead and answer some. I want to have a couple of conversations that you guys are having here in the comments. Yeah, definitely. China does definitely want to do a good amount of business here, kind of in Venezuela. Obviously, they've been allies for forever for the most part here, even though they are in fact our adversary. Venezuela is our adversary, and they just ally against all the people who we just do not like, basically, kind of by default, right? But yeah, I also agree here. I mean, China wants that oil, and Russia wants to sell them fighter jets. Yeah, yeah, it's money, bro. It is. It comes down to money, definitely. But in my overall mind, I'm just like, hold on, listen. If China starts getting more access to some of the places that are kind of within the Central and South America, then we will run into like the Belt and Road Initiative 2.0, basically in Latin America. Do we need that? No, because if we follow what the Belt and Road Initiative did in Africa, they started basically taking over all the ports, all right? And the last thing we really need again is for the East to start, you know, filling in, let's say, some of the blanks that are happening kind of in the West here, guys, right?
We call on the U.S. to ensure the personal safety of President Maduro
Yeah,
and his wife
I agree.
and to release them at once. We support the Council in fulfilling its primary responsibility to maintain international peace and security, and we support all efforts by the UN Secretary General, regional countries, and organizations that contribute to promoting dialogue and de escalating the situation. President, the lessons of history are a stark warning. Military means are not the solution to problems, and the
Okay.
indiscriminate use of force will only lead to greater crisis. The U.S. bypassed the Council to launch military operations against Iraq, blatantly attacked Iran's nuclear facilities, and imposed economic sanctions, military strikes, and even armed occupations on multiple countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. These actions have caused persistent conflict, instability, and immense suffering for the ordinary people. Did these actions bring peace and stability? Did they bring development and prosperity? The international community sees this
Wait,
clearly. Venezuela is an independent sovereign state with
what he just
every
said wasn't
right to
wrong.
defend its sovereignty and national dignity. Countries in Latin America and the Caribbean are important forces in maintaining world peace and stability and promoting global development and prosperity, and they have every right to independently choose their development paths and partners. No
Okay.
country can act as the world's police, nor can any state presume to be.
Okay, bro, then do you want to be the one that steps up when every single other nation basically is suffering, and or they need someone to fight their battles? Because if that's the case, bro, do that. You're saying no country is the world's police, bro. We've been the world's police since the 50s, 60s, right? That was like multiple doctrines that were placed by the United States of America to basically do these things here. Like if you do know that we had to, kind of.
The international judge. China firmly supports the government and people of Venezuela in safeguarding their sovereignty, security, and legitimate rights and interests. We firmly support the regional countries in upholding the status of Latin America and the Caribbean as a zone of peace. We demand that the United States change its course, cease its bullying and coercive practices, and develop relations and cooperation with regional countries on the basis of mutual respect, equality, and non-interference in international affairs. China
Okay,
stands ready
sure,
to
sure
work
thing,
with the
buddy.
regional countries and the international community to strengthen solidarity and cooperation, uphold fairness and justice, and jointly safeguard peace and stability in Latin America and the Caribbean.
A lot of
I thank you,
hypocrisy.
President.
A lot of hypocrisy, guys. Hold on, hold the phone here, guys. Okay. Um, Listen, there was a couple of things here. Again, I keep pointing this out because I do think that it's moderately truthful here. We can look at the track record of kind of what happened specifically in Central and South America, from a good amount of the intervention that we did in this region here. Listen, I get it, right? I understand like the reason why the people are flooding the borders of our southern border comes to a lot of the things that we specifically have done in that region. I know it. I'm not a derelict of my duties here. But yeah, it is what it is. Your case, right? Truth be told here. But then the rest of it, hypocrisy. Okay, that's it. That's where I'm at right there, guys. Guys, do you want to watch movies with me? I never actually thought to like promote it over here, guys. But if you guys do want to watch it, guys, we have hundreds of movies, and I mean hundreds of movies that we've reacted to. You guys can come watch them with me if you want to, along with many TV shows. Currently, we're working on the show Dexter, along with Vikings, and we have a lot of series that are already completed. But if you guys do want to watch it with me, the link is in the description. Everything's available at the second tier. But of course, if that's not your thing, guys, don't worry. Right? Listen, like and subscribe.